Next step in the power tool method is using the planer. Now this is a basic lunchbox style or portable planer. It's a 13-inch, but there are also stationary planers which are a lot bigger machines. Usually they're 15 inches and up, but if you're just getting into woodworking and interested in maybe getting the planer, I'd suggest getting a lunchbox style. They're a lot cheaper and easier to have access to. They don't take up as much room, and they're pretty basic to get used to. Pretty basic operation. There's a cutter head in the center with 2 feed rollers on either side, which are feeding the wood in from the front here. The machine is unplugged, by the way, but it's feeding the wood in through this way, through here. The cutter head's cutting like this, and it'll thickness your board to the exact same uniform or universal thickness throughout. This is self-feeding. You don't have to push it through like the joiner. You do have to once the feed rollers get engaged, but once they have a hold of the board, you don't have to hold on to it. But basic thing, a really good safety measure to do is always keep your fingers above the feed tables, because they do have a good amount of pressure they push down with, so getting your fingers caught under there isn't fun. But basically the whole machine will raise and lower. You can raise or lower with the crank handle and thickness it down to a certain thickness that you like. This one has preset depth stuff. Some of them have that. They have it from 1 1/4 inch, 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch. You can go to varying thicknesses. Some of them will have 2 speed or 2 feed speeds, one for rough cuts and then one for really fine finishing. Now, the third and final step in the power tool method is to use the table saw to clean up the second edge. You're just going to make it straight, and also be 90 degrees to the face, and it'll also be parallel with the other edge. One suggestion I would have to make when milling up lumber is do it over a couple days. When you get your boards in the rough and everything, rough form, just take a little bit of material off the top or all the sides just to expose a little bit of the internal wood, and then let that sit for a couple days, let it acclimate back to your shop. Now, some of you guys may be wondering, how am I going to mill up my lumber if I don't have a planer or a joiner? Well, there are some other alternatives to doing it. They may not be as quick or efficient, but they'll get you there eventually. It just takes a little bit more time. The first alternative step for finding the face of a board could be using a hand plane. This is a number 4, but a number 3 and number 4 would work fine for doing this. I'm not going to go into any really detail on using the hand plane. That's for another video, but basically just go with the grain, and what you want to do, take 2 just evenly cut pieces of wood or any really thing that's straight, and use these as siding blocks and place them along various places of the board, and then you just sight down to see where the high and low spots are. Another alternative method is to use a router with a special jig. Now, I don't have one of these jigs, but they're fairly easy to make. All you need is a flat surface and 2 runners on each side, which are perfectly dead straight and everything like that. And basically what you need is a cart or something for the router to sit on and mount to. And basically what you do, you plunge the bit down. You'll need a special type of bit. It's called I believe a router plane bit. But basically what you do, you plunge the router down until it's contacting the piece, and then you move the router around and you flatten your board that way. It would be on a dead flat surface, so you need something that's pretty flat, whether it be a torsion box table or anything like that. It's another alternative method to use. You can make them in any size, but they just take up a lot of room, and if you got a small shop, it's not the ideal thing to do. Now, what do you do if you have just the planer and not the joiner, or you have a board that's too wide to fit on your joiner? Well, you can make one of these. It's a planing sled, and basically what it does is just a couple pieces of plywood which are attached together with these runners that are the same thickness. Basically what you do, you set the board on top, attach it down, whatever method you use. This one you hot glue them down, but you can make them to have the board sit on there and just put a board in the back to catch the board and keep it from sliding back. But basically what you do, attach it down and then run it through your planer until it's flat, and you can flip the unattach the board and then run it through the planer, and it'll be flat that way. Again, this is for one if you don't have a joiner or have one that's not wide enough to cut that board. One alternative for edge joining or edge straightening is to use a straight edge and attach it to your board, and then you can reference this straight edge up against the fence on your table saw and run it through, and it'll make the opposing edge perfectly straight. Again, you just need something that's straight. You can either screw it down or glue it down or just use some double stick tape, but either or will work. Another alternative is to use a router with a pattern bit or a flush trimming bit and reference an edge guide and attach it down to your piece, and leave a little bit of the edge exposed enough to where it'll make it straight. And then basically what you do, you use the bearing to reference that against the straight edge, and then just follow along, and that'll make your board perfectly straight on the edge. Another common practice is to use a router table. Now basically what this is installing a straight bit in the router and installing a shim on the outside of the fence. And basically what you're doing is creating a mini joiner. This shim you're going to want to make even with the, or bring the bit even with the piece, the shim, and then that way you can edge joint it that way. The shim stock would be good either with like 1/8 inch plywood or 1/8 inch MDF if you can get it. Would be really good shim stock to use. I hope you guys found those methods really informative or useful. Another thing I'd like to make note of is a question that comes up a lot on Lumberjacks or some of the other forum sites I look on is between the planer and the joiner, which one should you buy first? Do you have to buy them both at the same time, or do you have to buy them at all? My response to that, in my opinion, is if you're going to go between the planer and the joiner, is get the planer first. Don't get the joiner first, because on the joiner you can't thickness stock. You can, but it would be really difficult, and you're probably going to end up with a board that's wedge shaped. It's not the same thickness, and it's just a lot difficult to do. But with the planer, like I showed you with the planing sled, you can make it that way and be able to get your first face flattened and use it that way. But that's just my opinion on that. But hope you guys found this video informative and useful, and I'll see you guys soon.